I want to talk about vacation. How many of you like vacation time? Wow, vacation is a great time to get away, is it not? You get to get away from work. You get to get away from those things and drudgeries of life that's really nagging at you. And if you're in school, you get to get away from school, right? I don't hear any kids going, yay. Oh, man, I thought maybe there was something wrong there for a moment. I know when I was a kid, I kind of liked vacation from school. In fact, I liked vacation so much that when I reached the half point of my kindergarten year, my teacher said to my parents, your son should be on vacation the next half of kindergarten. In fact, I missed half a year of kindergarten because the teacher said I really needed to be out of there. It wasn't, I hate to say this, it wasn't because I was so smart. It's because of other reasons that parents and teachers really don't want their children connected that way. But it was vacation after all. How many of you are looking forward to Christmas vacation? Are you doing that? Yeah, Christmas vacation. Well, I remember a question I asked my parents on the way to church one Sunday morning, and it was a dangerous question. It was one I really never should have asked. And the question was this. I had an older brother and sister that were also in school, and guess what? They got vacations from school, so I asked my parents, when do we get vacation from church? Well, I have to tell you, I learned the hard way that we were not going to get vacation from church. And the vacation I got from church that morning was not a vacation at all. When I think of vacation, it reminds me of the word holiday. And it reminds me of this season of life where some people talk about the holiday season and others talk about the Christmas season. Some people say happy holidays and others say Merry Christmas. What might the difference be? Happy holidays, in fact, can utilize all the things of Christmas, but in a very romantic way, or in a way that fits our feelings and emotions. Nice cards, nice gifts given, nice gifts received. We smile at one another. We fill the malls with joy and happiness. We sing Christmas carols, but they're called holiday carols. And so the holiday spirit is all around, but there's no commitment to the one who came to make this time of year possible. So to just say holiday leaves out the Christ who came born in a manger. Last week, Vicar Dave, our SMP vicar here, told a story about one of his daughters who sounds, Dave, if you're around, sounds like she was like me, getting in trouble quite often. But one of the things that happened with her in a class was she had a teacher that kept talking about holiday ornaments, and she kept saying Christmas ornaments. And the teacher would say holiday ornaments, and she would say Christmas ornaments. So it began to be a big argument. It's kind of like this. I want you to say holiday ornament. Holiday ornament. Now I want you to say back to them Christmas ornament. Christmas ornament. I want you to say to them louder holiday ornament. Holiday. I want you to say to them louder Christmas ornament. I'm not going to go any further because we may get you in an argument and a fight here. But really, it is not anything to fight about. It's really nothing for us to shout at each other about. It's really all about how we encounter Christmas. Is it Merry Christmas for us? I'm sure that it is. In the Gospel of Luke, prior to this text, Jesus had asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And his disciples said, "Well, some people say you're a prophet, and others have said that maybe you're like Elijah or even Isaiah." And then Jesus said, "Well, who do you say that I am?" And Peter says very quickly, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." He is the Christ of Christmas. With that being said, and that being the good news that Jesus wanted his disciples to trust and to know and to believe, he then let them know that the discipleship life is no holiday. It's a commitment. And it's something that is done daily. There's two things that are done daily. The first thing is that we deny ourselves. We deny ourselves of these three things. We deny ourselves of those powers in our life that we're not called upon to have. It means welcoming and accepting the powers that we do have, but recognizing and accepting the fact that there are powers we do not have. There's a story in the New Testament about Simon. Simon saw the disciples healing people, and he thought that was pretty cool. Man, I wish I could do that. Sometimes in school, we see friends that are able to do things that we can't do. Man, I wish I could do that. I wish I had the power to do that. And Peter told Simon, who wanted to pay for this power, that it was not a power that was his to pay for, but it was one that was already paid for and was given, not to be paid for. Sometimes we need to welcome and accept the fact that whatever power we might have in relationships is the power that we're meant to have. If we are a son or a daughter, we're meant to be a son or daughter. If we are a parent, we are meant to be a parent. If we are a grandparent, we are meant to be a grandparent. Whatever station in life that we have, that God has given to us, we can be thankful that we have that station in life. Sometimes when I was in school, I wanted to be the teacher, and the teacher didn't appreciate that too much. I really did not understand my teachers because of that. I thought I was doing a good job. I wanted their position and their power. The other thing for us to realize is that we deny ourselves when we accept the possessions and the treasures that we have in our life, and we're thankful for them, as opposed to spending an enormous time in our life, in fact, losing our families or using up all of our time in order to gain more and to get more and to fill our coffers with more wealth. There's nothing wrong with the wealth that God gives to us. There's nothing wrong with making a good living. There's nothing wrong with all that God blesses us with in our possessions. But what happens is, in our own way, we begin to want more and demand more from God and from others, so we end up with a greater abundance than what God places and gives to us. We burn ourselves out wanting more. That and position and prestige, the places of honor, places where people are looking up to us and respecting us and showing us honor and telling us how important we are. Sometimes we want to be more important than we're meant to be. And so suddenly, position, power, possessions take over us. To deny ourselves, we sometimes hear these words and we look at the world at Christmas time and we say, the world is materialistic. The world is always hungering for more power. And the world is always looking for people or places in which they can receive honor and glory. But the thing that Jesus was talking to his disciples about is that when we place those emphases in our lives, we need to deny those emphases and welcome, accept, and be thankful for what God gives to us. And use what God gives to us for his glory. For in denying ourselves what we want, we are able then to bear the cross daily that he places upon us. To bear one's cross means to do things and to receive suffering and sorrow because of our witness for Christ. It's to know that there is something greater that God has in store for us than what we want to achieve for ourselves right now. It's being able to endure for the sake of Jesus. When I was in high school, it was not cool to be smart. So some of us were so good at not being smart, people began to recognize us as not being smart. And then you were in a real mess. Because the times that you wanted to be seen as smart, you weren't because you've been acting not so smart, and you didn't know who you were. So all through 4 years of high school, we strived not to be smart, but then at the end, guess what? Everybody became concerned about whether or not they were in the top quarter of the class. Now it pays off to be smart because if you're smart and you're in the top quarter of the class, then you have more chances of getting scholarships to go to school. So at the end of my high school years, 4 of them, not 5, 4. See, some of you are thinking it took me as long to go through high school as it did kindergarten. See, it only took me half a year to go through kindergarten. I want you to realize that. At the end of 4 years, the principal called me in the office and he said, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is this: you did not make the top quarter of the class. The good news is this: you're number 1 in the second quarter. In our school, we had 88 graduating seniors. The first person in the second quarter was number 23. I had number 23 on my basketball uniform. 23. I had 23 before Jordan. Some of you know who I'm talking about. Michael Jordan, thank you. Yeah. But what I realized is that I spent 4 years trying to be cool. And I lost out on the gift that God gave me to be smart. What God says to us and what Jesus is saying to his disciples, being a disciple is not a holiday. Being a disciple is receiving the good gifts of God and using them to his glory. It's putting them to practice. It's utilizing them on a daily basis. It's helping our children discover what their gifts are and how they can use them. It's encouraging one another to be faithful witnesses of the good news of Christ, whether they are elementary, middle school, or high school. It is encouraging one another to walk the walk of a child of God. Not because that walk gets us to heaven, but because the one in heaven came down and walked to the cross. Because the one in heaven came down and suffered death on the cross because he loved all humanity, you and me. It's because he was willing to pay the price and do what he came to do so that the sins of all humanity would be placed in the grave and he would rise again saying, it's done. And he reigns on high to assure us that we are his. God's grace gives us the gift of justification, gives us the gift of being free from sin, because he has freed us by his death on the cross. And he empowers us by his Spirit to live a life in which we can say, Merry Christmas. And we can daily deny ourselves and carry the cross of that witness in a world that might make fun of us and mock us and humiliate us because we are Christians. And that we are bold enough to say, in a loving and kind way to the world around us, Merry Christmas. Because Merry Christmas just might be the cross that you and I bear today. That Advent cross, made out of wood, reveals the Savior who was placed in a wooden manger. And for that, we are here. Merry Christmas to you all.